Good evening and welcome to my channel. Before the first heartbeat of time, before distance had meaning, there was only stillness. Not the quiet of a forest at night or the hush before dawn, but a deeper calm, a silence beyond silence, an infinite waiting that contained no memory, no motion, no boundary. In that boundless absence, nothing stirred, and yet within that nothingness lay the seed of all possibility. Every star that would one day burn, every world that would rise, every thought that would be dreamed, all slumbered together as pure potential, unformed and eternal. Then, in a moment that had no before, potential became reality. Out of that vast stillness came a trembling, not a sound, not a flash, but the birth of becoming. What followed was not an explosion into space, for there was no space to explode into. It was the creation of space itself, the sudden unfurling of dimensions, the awakening of time. In an instant smaller than imagination, the universe began to breathe. Energy flooded outward, fierce and radiant, yet balanced by equal grace. Space stretched, and with it, time unfolded like a ribbon caught in a cosmic wind. The temperature was beyond measure, the density beyond thought. Yet within that first breath of existence, the laws of physics began to whisper their first words. Gravitation, light, and the very fabric of reality emerged together like chords in the first symphony. There was no observer to see it, no witness to name it. But if there had been, they would have watched creation expanding, not as fire, but as pure light, an ocean of brilliance filling the newborn cosmos. The smallest fluctuations rippled through that sea of energy, tiny unevennesses that would one day decide where galaxies would form and where the void would remain. As the universe expanded, it cooled. Seconds passed, though what a second meant in those first ages cannot truly be known. The raw fury of creation softened into radiance, and particles began to find one another. Protons and neutrons danced through the glow, joining to make the first atomic hearts. Hydrogen was born, simple and light, destined to become the foundation of every star. The early universe was still opaque, filled with a dense fog of energy and matter intertwined. Light could not yet travel freely. It bounced endlessly from particle to particle, trapped within its own brilliance. Yet this hidden light carried the promise of sight, waiting for the moment when it could at last escape and fill the cosmos with illumination. In that youthful chaos, the universe expanded faster than any thought could keep pace. With each passing moment, distances stretched, and the fabric of space carried matter with it like a tide. Galaxies were not yet formed, stars not yet kindled, but the architecture of the future was quietly being written into the pattern of density and void. For nearly 400,000 years, the cosmos remained a radiant fog. Then, as the temperature fell to a level gentle enough for electrons to settle around nuclei, atoms were born. The universe became transparent. Light, freed at last from its captivity, streamed outward in every direction, marking the true dawn of visibility. That light still travels even now, stretched thin by the expansion of space, whispering its story to those who can listen. The cosmic microwave background, the echo of the first illumination. If we could stand within that ancient glow, we would see not stars, but a sea of delicate color, subtle ripples of energy mapping the first imperfections. Those faint patterns were destiny itself, the fingerprints of what would one day become clusters of galaxies. In those variations, the universe chose its shape, deciding where matter would gather and where emptiness would reign. And still it grew. Gravity, the quiet sculptor, began its patient work, drawing together what the expansion had scattered. Clouds of hydrogen drifted and swirled, colliding, merging, and thickening under their own attraction. The first hints of structure appeared, invisible yet certain, like outlines on a canvas that had only just been stretched. Time, once meaningless, began to acquire rhythm. Moments followed one another, ages built upon ages, and the cosmos, though still young, had already written the prologue to every story that would ever be told. Within its expanding vastness, energy transformed into matter, matter into complexity, and complexity into potential for life, thought and memory. This was the first transformation. From absolute nothingness to a living universe, from stillness to motion, from void to abundance. It happened without sound, without witness, without intention, yet it was perfect in its unfolding. Every atom born in that first fire carried within it the memory of that transformation. Each piece of matter is a relic of that instant when the universe chose to exist. Even now, billions of years later, that choice continues to echo. The galaxies that wheel across the sky are the descendants of that first expansion. Every photon of starlight is a fragment of that initial brilliance, cooled and softened by time. The spaces between the stars are not emptiness, but the stretched fabric of that first moment, still expanding, still carrying forward the legacy of creation. To imagine that all of this arose from nothing is to confront both mystery and serenity. Nothingness was not destroyed, it was transformed. The void itself became the stage upon which everything else could unfold. In that transformation lies the quiet wonder of existence. That being and non-being are not opposites but partners, endlessly exchanging places as the universe breathes. If you close your eyes and drift within that thought, you can almost feel the echo of that beginning. The warmth that fills the universe still hums softly in every corner of space. A background melody so faint yet so constant that it forms the true silence beneath all sound. It is the cradle song of creation, a whisper from the time when the cosmos was young and light had only just begun to travel. Every grain of dust, every atom in your body, every photon that touches your skin was once part of that first brilliance. You are woven from the same energy that once filled all of existence in a single point of unimaginable density. The story of creation is not something that happened elsewhere. It is something that still happens within you. Because the expansion never stopped, the space between galaxies continues to stretch, carrying them farther apart even now. Time keeps flowing outward, and the energy that began in that first instant has not vanished. It has only changed form. It lives as light, as matter, as thought, as you. When you breathe, you echo that first release of energy. When you close your eyes, you carry within you the same darkness that preceded creation. You are both the silence before and the song after, both the void and the light. The universe began not as a single moment long ago, but as a continuing act, a breathing, expanding, self-unfolding presence. Every second that passes is another wave in that endless expansion. Every heartbeat mirrors the pulse of that first awakening. And somewhere, beyond the reach of sight, the expansion still continues, stretching the fabric of space ever thinner, drawing the galaxies apart while creating new room for possibilities yet unseen. The cosmos is not growing into emptiness. It is creating the emptiness as it grows. In that simple truth lies the wonder of all beginnings. The birth of everything from nothing was not a violent event, but a gentle transformation that has never ended. It is happening still, silently, patiently, beautifully, an infinite unfolding of being. When the newborn universe continued to swell, it was far from the gentle order we now see traced in the constellations. It was wild, seething, restless, a place where gravity wrestled with heat and motion, where clouds of gas drifted and collided like waves upon an unseen shore. Yet within that turbulence, something patient and deliberate was at work. The same forces that tore matter apart were also gathering it together, shaping chaos into harmony with the steady persistence of natural law. Across vast distances, invisible hands began to sculpt form out of formlessness. Hydrogen, the lightest of all, swirled in immense currents, drawn by the quiet pull of gravity. Over millions of years, these immense clouds thickened. They twisted into filaments and knots, slow vortices turning in the darkness. What had once been uniform began to separate into regions of density and void, a cosmic rhythm of gathering and release. Each cluster of gas was a seed of future brilliance. As they contracted, friction and pressure awoke heat deep within their hearts. And when the temperature climbed high enough, a miracle repeated itself again and again across the dark expanse. Fusion began. The first stars ignited. They shone not merely as points of light, but as proclamations that order had emerged from turmoil. The light of those first suns poured outward, washing across the primordial darkness. It touched drifting clouds of gas, sculpting them, pushing them, carving delicate arches and tendrils through the void. Chaos responded to light, and from that dialogue came beauty. The universe began to glow, faintly at first, then with growing confidence, as billions upon billions of new stars followed. Each one was a crucible where elements were born. Inside their blazing cores, hydrogen fused into helium, helium into heavier atoms. Each transformation a small echo of creation's first fire. When those massive stars lived their brief, radiant lives and finally collapsed, they scattered their enriched matter through space. That stardust seeded the next generations of suns, planets, and moons. The elements of stone, water, air, and life itself were forged in that continuing exchange between chaos and harmony. As eons passed, stars gathered into clusters, clusters into galaxies, galaxies into elegant spirals and elliptical clouds. Gravity shaped their motion with a quiet artistry, curving their paths into sweeping arcs. The early universe, that had once been filled with turbulent flame, now shimmered with geometry, vast discs of light turning slowly. Each rotation a gesture of balance drawn from the memory of disorder. Yet harmony did not erase chaos, it grew from it. In the quiet interplay between the two, the universe found its rhythm. Supernovas still tore the fabric of the heavens, scattering their remains like blossoms in the cosmic wind, and in their wake new stars bloomed. Black holes formed at galactic centers, devouring and shaping with equal grace, their immense gravity anchoring the spiral dance around them. Even destruction became a kind of creation. Between galaxies stretched immense voids, places of near-perfect emptiness that gave shape to what surrounded them. The dark matter, invisible yet omnipresent, held the cosmic web together, its silent gravity weaving threads of connectivity. From the outside it might seem chaotic, a tangle of energy, motion, and collapse. Yet beneath it all was a symmetry, a balance so subtle it could only be glimpsed through its effects. If one could drift silently through that young universe, they would see collisions that spanned light years. Clouds colliding, shockwaves rippling through the dark, stars forming in the wake of cosmic violence. And in those moments of seeming ruin, new structure always followed. The universe had discovered its method. Through disorder came adaptation. Through collapse came renewal. Through motion came music. Every spiral arm, every glowing nebula, every faint wisp of interstellar dust tells the same story. That chaos is not the opposite of harmony, but its origin. The delicate shapes of galaxies were carved by storms billions of years old, each curve a memory of turbulence long past. The calm you see in the night sky is not the absence of conflict, but the outcome of it. The quiet aftermath of a universe learning to balance itself. In this cosmic transformation, time played the role of an artist with infinite patience. Over billions of years, the random motions of matter smoothed into graceful orbits. Particles that once drifted without purpose found companions, circling, gathering, building. The great machinery of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear fusion, became the tools of creation's steady hand. What once seemed like chaos began to reveal a pattern, one that had always been hidden within its very disorder. When we look at the galaxies scattered across the heavens, we are seeing not just light, but history. Frozen moments of motion caught across unimaginable distances. Each shimmer is a word in the story of balance emerging from chaos. And though those stars appear fixed in the still night, they are in truth in constant motion, whirling in grand orbits that will continue for trillions of years. Harmony does not mean stillness, it means motion in perfect proportion. As the first galaxies settled into their slow rotations, smaller systems formed within them. Clouds condensed into stars, dust rings thickened into planets. Some of these worlds would be barren, others fiery or frozen. But each one was a small experiment in balance. Each represented the same principle that governed the universe itself. The meeting of chance and law, chaos and harmony, creation and decay. On one such small world, orbiting an unremarkable star in the arm of a spiral galaxy, those principles would one day find voice. But for now, the universe continued its expansion, its song of balance echoing through the emptiness. Light from countless stars filled the void, each ray tracing its own gentle line across the growing fabric of space. Between those rays flowed darkness, not an enemy of light, but its partner. The universe needed both. The darkness gave depth, the light gave form. The two together created contrast, texture, and the quiet majesty that would one day fill night skies with awe. Just as silence shaped sound, emptiness shaped creation. The vast gulfs between stars were not wasted space, but the framework that allowed beauty to exist. If you could slow time enough to see the movements of the galaxies, as you watch clouds drift across a sky, you would see them rise and fall like breathing. You would see collisions that looked violent at first, yet after millions of years resolved into serene new forms. You would see stars pulled apart and reborn, gas compressed and rekindled, every loss leading to renewal. The universe does not resist chaos, it transforms it. From the very first moment, disorder was the canvas and harmony, the painting that slowly emerged upon it. Every star that shines today, every planet that circles its sun, owes its existence to the countless moments of imbalance that came before. In every grain of dust and every pulse of light, the story of chaos turning into order is still being written. And so the cosmos matured. From the initial frenzy came rhythm. From scattered sparks came constellations, from collisions came spirals, from silence came song. The vastness that once seemed random revealed itself as structured, bound by laws as elegant as they are inevitable. What began as fire and confusion became a choreography of motion, a dance written in the language of gravity and light. Even now, that dance continues. Stars are born and die, galaxies drift apart, black holes merge in distant reaches of space. Each event might seem like a single act of chaos, but taken together, they compose a harmony so profound that it fills every corner of existence. The universe does not seek perfection, it seeks balance. And in that balance lies its beauty. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. Not a sound, but a sense of rhythm. The quiet heartbeat of creation itself. It beats in the space between stars, in the spiral arms that curl like cosmic tides, in the faint glow that threads the darkness. It beats in the atoms of your body, born long ago in the furnace of some ancient star. You are not apart from that harmony, you are one of its notes. When the first stars illuminated the void, harmony was born, and with it the possibility of everything to come. The galaxies, the worlds, the lives, the dreams. Out of chaos came coherence, and from coherence came the serene universe that now cradles us. The same laws that guided the first clouds of hydrogen still shape us now. They are the quiet reminders that beauty does not arise in spite of chaos, but because of it. The universe was never silent in its making. It was always alive, always shifting, always creating new balances out of disorder. And even in its vast and endless motion, it remains gentle, patient, eternal, a harmony drawn forever from the heart of chaos. There came a time when the universe, having stretched and cooled, reached the threshold where darkness no longer ruled alone. Out of the long night of formless clouds, something miraculous stirred. The first fires kindled in the quiet deep. The cosmos, vast and cold, held its breath as gravity. That patient sculptor gathered invisible dust into dense, hidden hearts. And in those hearts, the first stars were born. They did not appear suddenly like lanterns flaring to life, but gradually through a long and silent gestation. Clouds of hydrogen, immense beyond imagination, spun and folded under their own weight. The deeper they collapsed, the hotter their centers became, until pressure itself could bear no more. Then, deep within those collapsing hearts, fusion began. The joining of atoms, the triumph of light over darkness. A glow spread outward from within, and for the first time in all of existence, the universe saw itself illuminated. These were the first suns, titanic, brilliant. Short-lived giants whose light pierced the fog of the cosmos. Their radiance swept through the surrounding clouds, pushing back the shadows. ionizing the space around them into shimmering seas of energy. Creation's long night began to fade. This was the dawn of light, the true awakening of the universe. Where once there had been only the faint whisper of ancient radiation, now there was brilliance. Photons streamed freely across the expanding void, tracing their golden paths through the newborn galaxies. Light became the messenger of order, the thread connecting distant corners of space, binding the cosmos in a web of illumination. In their fierce brilliance, these first stars burned through their lives with reckless speed. They were massive, hundreds of times larger than the sun that would one day warm your world. And their time was brief, lasting only a few million years. Yet in those brief lives they created the elements that would one day build everything that followed. Within their cores, under unimaginable pressure, they fused hydrogen into helium, helium into carbon, oxygen, and iron. The alchemy of existence had begun. When those ancient titans reached the end of their lives, they did not fade quietly. Their cores collapsed, and their outer layers exploded outward in cataclysmic supernovae. Bursts so bright they outshone entire galaxies for a moment in time. These explosions scattered their enriched remains across space, sowing the seeds of future creation. The dust and gas that drifted from their deaths would one day form new generations of stars, and from those, worlds. The ashes of their brilliance became the building blocks of all that would ever be. In that endless cycle of birth and death, the universe began to mature. From one generation of stars to the next, complexity increased. Simple hydrogen gave way to heavier elements, and with them came diversity, the potential for structure, for chemistry, for life. Every atom of carbon in your body was once forged in the heart of one of those ancient suns. Every breath you take carries the legacy of that first light. Across unimaginable stretches of time, the night sky began to fill. Where once only a few stars blazed in the vast black, now billions shimmered, clustering together into galaxies. Each galaxy was a cosmic city of light, a vast congregation of suns turning slowly in their elegant orbits. The first spirals took shape, arms unfurling like blossoms in a cosmic garden. Nebulae glowed in soft hues of blue and crimson, their gaseous veils lit by the newborn stars within. Beauty, once impossible, had begun to bloom. Light, in its journey, did more than reveal. It connected. It crossed the growing gulfs between stars, weaving an invisible thread between distant realms. Every ray carried information about its source, its journey, and its age. And as it traveled, it transformed the universe, keeping it warm, guiding its evolution, illuminating the pathways of possibility. The cosmos had found its voice, and it spoke in light. Yet the universe was still young, still restless. Galaxies collided and merged, their stars mingling in chaotic grace. In the dense centers of these collisions, even greater stars were born, massive beyond comprehension, and at their cores, immense black holes formed, gravitational wells so deep that even light could not escape. These dark hearts became the anchors around which galaxies would dance. Where light was born, darkness too found purpose, each defining the other. Through the balance of radiance and shadow, the universe continued to shape itself, star by star, system by system. The heavens grew richer. The faint mist that once filled space condensed into intricate tapestries of structure. Dust gathered into disks around young suns, where new planets slowly began to form. Rocky worlds, gaseous giants, frozen spheres adrift in the cold. Each one a unique experiment, a possibility waiting to unfold. But long before those worlds knew the touch of oceans or the whisper of wind, the stars themselves carried the burden of continuity. Their light reached across the ages, illuminating the pathways for what would come. And though most of those first suns are gone, their influence endures. Their atoms drift through the cosmos still, wandering, joining, becoming. Their light, stretched thin by distance and time, still travels. Ancient photons, billions of years old, brushing against the instruments and eyes that now look up in wonder. The first light of creation never truly vanished. It became the background glow that fills the universe even now, the silent radiance that hums beneath all darkness. It is the memory of illumination, the proof that once the cosmos was young and filled with promise. Every star that shines today is an echo of that first brilliance, every flicker of light a continuation of that ancient story. If you could watch the process unfold from the very beginning, it would seem almost alive. You would see clouds breathe, expanding and contracting in rhythm as if responding to some unseen pulse. You would see the first sparks flare and fade, then flare again elsewhere, a dance of luminous birth that never ends. The universe, through the birth of stars, learned to see itself, to reflect upon its own existence in the language of light. And yet, for all their grandeur, stars are fragile things. They live on balance between gravity's pull inward and radiation's push outward. Too much of one, and they collapse. Too much of the other, and they scatter. Their beauty lies in that tension, in the perfect poise between creation and destruction. They are the living symbols of the universe's own balance, blazing reminders that even in the greatest chaos, harmony can be born. As light spread through the cosmos, so did time gain meaning. For the first time, there were cycles of birth, death, and renewal, and from those cycles came history. The universe began to record itself, not in words or memory, but in light and motion. The glow of distant stars is that record still, a story written across the heavens in wavelengths too vast for human language to capture. When you look at the night sky, you are gazing into that story. The light that reaches your eyes began its journey long before there was life to receive it. Some of those photons may have traveled billions of years to touch you now. They are ancient messengers, carrying the memory of their birthplaces, the furnaces of the first stars, the cathedrals of early galaxies, the dawn of illumination itself. To realize this is to understand your connection to everything. You are, in truth, made of light, slowed, shaped, and bound into form. The atoms that make up your eyes once blazed in stellar hearts. The light they now perceive is kin to the light that birthed them. The act of looking at the stars is not an act of separation, but of reunion. It is the universe, through you, remembering its own beginning. As the first light spread, so too did stillness begin to settle. The wild energies of early creation softened into the grand calm we now see when we lift our eyes to the night. The stars no longer burned in isolation, but as part of a larger composition. Constellations forming, galaxies spiraling, clusters swaying in mutual gravitation. Each star a note in an infinite symphony, each galaxy a phrase in a cosmic hymn. There is no hurry in this rhythm. The universe moves slowly, gracefully, as though aware that eternity lies before it. The light that began so fiercely in those first stars continues to shine, passed down from generation to generation, recycled endlessly through birth and death. What was once chaos has become a living harmony of illumination. And perhaps, in the gentle glow of that ancient light, one can find peace. The understanding that creation was never a single act, but an ongoing unfolding. That the same force that birthed the stars also animates your every breath. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are one of its luminous threads, woven from its light, shaped by its rhythm, carried by its story. The stars may burn and fade, but the light remains. It travels, transforms, continues, just as existence does. From the first fire to the last flicker, the universe will always find a way to shine. From the light of newborn stars came the dust of promise. Across the widening arms of galaxies, the remnants of ancient explosions drifted like golden pollen in the dark. Each grain carried within it the memory of fire, the signature of elements once forged in stellar hearts. Slowly, imperceptibly, gravity began to draw these grains together. What had been scattered became a gathering, and what was formless began to take shape. Around young suns, clouds of gas and dust turned and thickened into luminous disks. Within those disks, collisions became creation. Tiny fragments met, clung, broke apart, and met again until the fragments grew into stones, the stones into boulders, and the boulders into worlds. The birth of a planet was not a single instant, but a patient dance lasting millions of years. An act of quiet perseverance written into the rhythm of motion itself. In some corners of those swirling disks, the heat was unbearable. In others, the cold was absolute. Yet in between lay narrow bands where warmth and coolness found balance, where matter could settle without being consumed or frozen. These regions became the nurseries of life, though life itself was still a distant dream. For now, only worlds were being sculpted, barren, silent, waiting. Some became giants, vast spheres of gas with storms that could swallow worlds whole. Others remained small and rocky, their surfaces scarred by the violence of their making. Meteors rained endlessly, oceans of molten stone cooled to crusts. Volcanoes breathed fire into the void. Each planet, though lifeless, was alive with motion, shifting, evolving, shaping itself according to the same laws that had guided the stars. Among them, a few found themselves blessed by chance. They orbited at just the right distance from their suns, their surfaces tempered between heat and frost. On those rare worlds, water could exist not as steam or ice, but as liquid, the gentle element of transformation. Rivers began as vapor, fell as rain, gathered as seas. Lightning split the clouds, and in the shallow warmth of ancient oceans, chemistry awakened. The story of life begins long before life itself. It begins with molecules, simple, delicate, restless. In the quiet tide pools of those early worlds, they danced and joined, split and rejoined, testing endless combinations. Energy from lightning, from sunlight, from the deep warmth of the planet's heart drove their experiments. And out of trillions of failures, one pattern found the key to persistence: replication. A molecule learned to make a copy of itself, and in that moment, The universe crossed another invisible threshold, from inert matter to living process. It did not happen quickly. Ages passed while the first fragile strands of life competed and evolved. Cells formed, broke, and formed again. Some learned to draw energy from the light of their stars, others from the minerals in their oceans. Slowly, diversity bloomed in the microscopic. The planet that once knew only silence began to hum with unseen activity. The chemistry of life was no longer a theory, it was a reality, gentle but unstoppable. Every living thing that would one day walk, fly, swim, or think traces its lineage to that moment. Life did not arrive from elsewhere. It rose from the materials already here. The dust of dead stars, the water drawn from ancient comets, the heat of a molten core. The universe had, in its patient artistry, learned to create not only structure but awareness. And as those first cells multiplied, they altered their world. The gases they exhaled changed the atmosphere, softening its poison into breath. The sunlight they captured transformed the planet's chemistry. Slowly, the balance of air and ocean shifted until life itself became the sculptor of its environment. The planet and its inhabitants became one organism, evolving through time. Elsewhere in the cosmos, countless other worlds followed their own quiet experiments. Some may have succeeded. Others may have fallen silent before life could take root. But the pattern was universal: light, matter, energy, and time weaving together to produce complexity. The same chemistry that sparked life here existed everywhere, waiting for conditions to align. Perhaps, scattered among the stars, other oceans ripple under alien skies, nurturing their own beginnings. On this world, life flourished. Simple forms gave way to complexity, single cells joined into colonies. Colonies became creatures. Creatures learned to sense, to move, to seek. The tides sculpted coastlines, the winds carved mountains, the rain nourished valleys. Each process, each cycle, was part of the same unfolding that had begun at the dawn of time. The beauty of this transformation lies not in its speed, but in its patience. Over billions of years, continents drifted, climates shifted, and species rose and fell. The planet never rushed, it merely turned. Day after day, under the same sun that had ignited from the ashes of ancient stars, the seeds of life, once microscopic, grew into forests, oceans, wings, eyes, and thoughts. The same laws that shaped galaxies guided the growth of a leaf, the spiral of a shell, the rhythm of a heartbeat, and always the memory of origins remained. The iron in blood, the calcium in bone, the carbon in breath, all were forged in the deaths of stars. Life was not a departure from the cosmos, but its continuation. The universe, through living beings, had found a new way to know itself. What had begun as light now looked back at the light with wonder. Across the ages, the first sparks of consciousness flickered. Creatures began to sense more than survival. They began to feel the patterns of existence. The pull of tides, the warmth of sun, the passage of seasons. From these perceptions grew awareness, and from awareness, curiosity. The same curiosity that once drove hydrogen to fuse into stars now drove minds to question the sky. The story of worlds and life is not one of accident, but of resonance. Every event that led to this moment, every explosion, every collision, every gentle orbit, was part of a single unfolding. The dust that once drifted through the void has become eyes that gaze upon it, thoughts that dream about it, voices that tell its story. In this way, creation became conscious of itself. And yet, nothing has truly ended. Planets continue to form in distant nebulae. New stars ignite, old ones fade. The seeds of life drift unseen through the cosmos, carried perhaps on frozen comets, waiting for the right warmth to awaken them again. The process that began billions of years ago still continues, quietly, beautifully, endlessly. If you close your eyes, you might almost hear it. The low hum of planetary motion, the slow breath of oceans, the rhythm of existence unfolding at its own pace. It is the same rhythm that began with the first expansion, the same patience that built galaxies, now written into the turning of a world and the beating of a heart. Life is the universe made soft. It is energy wrapped in gentleness, matter shaped into perception. From the first molecule that copied itself to the mind, that wonders about the stars, the same thread runs unbroken, creation seeking to know what it has created. Every living being carries within it the memory of that first dawn, encoded not in words, but in the structure of existence itself. The formation of worlds was never only about rock and gravity, it was about potential. The moment the first planet cooled, the moment the first droplet formed, the stage was set for something miraculous. The universe had taken a breath, and in that breath lay the future. Even now, as stars burn and fade, as galaxies drift farther apart, new worlds continue to appear. Around young suns, the dust of creation still swirls, still gathers, still dreams. Somewhere in those distant clouds, another world may be forming, another ocean waiting to awaken, another consciousness preparing to open its eyes to the light. The story of life is not finished, it is eternal, because the same universe that gave rise to you continues to create, to evolve, to learn. It has never stopped becoming. It whispers through the rustle of leaves, through the song of tides, through the silent expansion of galaxies. It tells the same ancient truth: from nothing came everything, and from everything came awareness. You are that awareness, listening, remembering, belonging. In the endless drift of time, there came a moment when the universe began to look inward. Not through sudden revelation, but through a quiet, growing awareness. Somewhere, on a small blue world circling an ordinary star, consciousness stirred and opened its eyes to the sky. It did not yet know what it was seeing, only that it was vast, beautiful, and full of questions. In that instant, the cosmos began to reflect upon itself. For billions of years it had expanded, created, destroyed, and renewed. But never had it paused to wonder. Through the eyes of life, it now beheld its own immensity. Through the mind of a fragile being standing on a grain of dust, it now dreamed of its origins. And though that being called itself by many names, it was, in truth, the universe thinking about its own existence. When we gaze into the night, we are not looking outward, we are looking backward in time. Every star is a message from the past, its light travelling across oceans of darkness to reach us. To see the stars is to see memory, the living memory of everything that has ever been. And in that recognition lies something sacred. The realization that we are part of the story, not separate from it. The same atoms that make up our bones once burned in those distant fires. The same carbon that shapes a leaf once drifted in the tail of a comet. The same water that fills our oceans once cooled the surface of new worlds. In the hush of night, the boundaries between self and cosmos dissolve. The heartbeat becomes an echo of expansion, the breath a whisper of creation's rhythm. The vastness outside is mirrored in the stillness within. The more deeply one listens, the more one hears that the universe has never been silent. It has only been speaking in a language too grand for words. It speaks through gravity, through the dance of galaxies, through the birth and death of stars. It speaks through the pulse of atoms and the slow rhythm of planetary orbits. And now, it speaks through thought, through minds capable of wonder. Not because there is nothing, but because the light has not yet reached us. There will always be more than we can grasp, more than we can name. And perhaps that too is part of the beauty. The universe does not demand to be understood, it only invites us to witness. Each discovery, each revelation, is like a candle flickering in an infinite night, small, fragile, but enough to illuminate the wonder around us. To know everything would be to end the story, and the story is what gives existence its depth. So the universe continues, unfolding like a poem without end, each verse giving rise to the next. Even as we look to the stars, we are part of their future. The elements in our bodies will one day return to the cosmos. Our atoms will drift through the interstellar medium, joining new clouds, forming new stars, shaping new worlds. We will become part of the very stories that our descendants, or other beings yet unborn, will tell as they look upon the same heavens. Death and birth are not opposites here. They are continuations of one another, movements in a single eternal breath. In that way, nothing is truly lost. The stars that die give life to new stars. The galaxies that fade make room for those yet to form. Even as the universe expands, it recycles itself through transformation. Energy flows into new expressions, patterns dissolve and reassemble. The dance continues. There is no end, only change, only becoming. And so it is with consciousness. What we call thought, awareness, soul, these two may be part of the universal current. Perhaps every mind that has ever wondered adds to a collective reflection that ripples through space, time. Perhaps the act of observing the cosmos feeds back into it, shaping it in ways we cannot yet perceive. In that sense, the universe might not just be expanding in space, but in awareness, learning about itself through us. Imagine that every thought you've ever had, every feeling, every dream, is a small echo of the original creation, a spark from the same fire that once ignited all existence. The very ability to feel awe, to stand beneath a sky full of stars and feel small yet connected, is itself the culmination of cosmic evolution. You are not outside the universe looking in, you are the universe feeling its own magnificence. The night sky then becomes a mirror. In its depths we see not separation, but unity. The recognition that all things are threads of the same fabric. Every photon, every atom, every heartbeat moves in harmony with the same ancient rhythm. And though time may seem to march forward, the universe, in truth, exists all at once, every past, every future, every possibility woven together in an eternal now. When we rest, when we let go of thought and simply breathe, we return to that rhythm. The pulse of the cosmos beats within the body. The breath aligns with the turning of galaxies. Sleep then becomes not an escape from awareness, but a reunion with it, a quiet merging with the infinite. The mind drifts through its own vastness, like a small world circling the gravity of something greater, and in that drifting there is peace. Even as eons pass, even as stars burn out and galaxies fade into darkness, creation will not end. The energy that began in that first brilliant expansion still flows through everything. It may cool, it may slow, but it will never vanish. Perhaps new universes will arise from the remnants of this one, fresh beginnings born from cosmic silence. The cycle will begin again, as it always has, as it always will, from nothing to everything, and from everything once more to wonder. There is comfort in that thought, that the story is unending, that the cosmos, in its infinite patience, keeps writing itself into being. Each life, each world, each thought is a sentence in that endless script. You are part of that story, and the story continues through you. To exist, even for a moment, is to take part in something eternal. Listen closely, and you can almost hear it. The faint murmur of galaxies, the whisper of starlight falling through time, the gentle heartbeat of existence itself. It is the same song that has played since the beginning, the same note carried across eternity. It is not loud. It does not demand attention. It waits, patient and kind, for you to be still enough to feel it. And as you breathe, slowly and deeply, you become aware of that rhythm. The distance between yourself and the stars disappears. The boundaries of body and space fade. You are part of the flow, part of the expansion, part of the eternal conversation between creation and awareness. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe becoming self-aware once again. So rest as the galaxies turn. Rest as time unfolds quietly around you. Rest, knowing that even in stillness, you are moving with everything, drifting through the same vast silence that gave birth to light, to worlds, to life, to thought. And as you drift, remember nothing is ever truly lost, and nothing ever truly ends. Every breath is a continuation of that first cosmic exhalation. Every heartbeat is the echo of a beginning that never stops. The universe continues, vast, gentle, eternal, and within it so do you.